Romano here, the Breakthrough Life Coach, and I've been asked to do a video, which is really awesome. I love the title, Love After Codependency. And it's a really great, I think it's a really great topic for a video because so many of us who discover that we are codependent struggle with, now what? Which is the title of my last book, Codependent, Now What? It's Not You, It's Your Programming. And I didn't even mean to segue into that, seriously. But those of us who wake up to the realization that we've been codependent probably our whole life, and then begin to understand what that means. It means that we've been seeking validation. It means that we have been recreating our childhood programs. It means that we have been wanting our partners to fulfill us in ways that were unhealthy. Some of us expected our partners to read our minds. It means that we didn't have a self, and we were looking for the relationship to fulfill the other part of us. For me, I didn't realize I was codependent my whole life. My parents were codependent. My mother was always afraid of upsetting my dad. And I watched that as a little girl. I watched my mother, literally cower when it came to my dad. So if my mom was upset, that upset my father. Like, my mother wasn't allowed to have an emotional response. And especially if it meant that she was upset with something that he did. And when my father gets the sense that you're upset with him, he gets louder, he gets aggressive, he gets abrasive, sometimes insulting. And most of the time he gets very angry and then he just withdraws. He gives you the impression like he doesn't want to be bothered with you. He just cannot wrap his mind around the idea that you're allowed to have a difference in opinion of his. And that doesn't mean that you don't love him. It just means that you have a different opinion. So his ego gets threatened, he pushes you away, and then you feel abandoned. And I watched my mother suffer from the fear of his rejection and the fear of his abandonment my whole life. So that became my download. As I began to heal from codependency and I really began to investigate it, and I learned that my parents were unrecovered adult children of alcoholics, which means that my parents were raised by parents who were self-absorbed and narcissistic, either truly narcissistic, or the addiction to alcohol made them narcissistic and made them unable to really be able to be there for their children. When parents are drunk and they're on drugs, if they're workaholics and they have these one-track minds, children are an afterthought. And that is what wounds us as children. And those of you who follow my work that are adult children that have coached with me personally or are in my breakthrough coaching program right now, confronting these ideas from childhood that we never confronted because we didn't know we had a right to confront them. And worse than that, lots of us didn't even know what we were supposed to be confronting. I didn't know that I had what I call the invalidation wound. I didn't know that I had that. I didn't know that I had been invalidated my whole life. I didn't know that watching my mom invalidate her experience taught me to invalidate my experience. I didn't know growing up in the 60s and the 70s where it was the norm to hear people say children should be seen and not heard, that alone was invalidating. No. Children are supposed to be seen and they're supposed to be heard. And children are supposed to feel seen and feel heard. So that's a bunch of nonsense. It's a bunch of crap. Children should be seen and not heard. That's why so many of people in my generation are suffering, and what we did is we went out and we had children and we thought we'll do it better than our parents did. And what happens is we're doing it better than our parents, at least we think so. But oftentimes we're repeating lots of the same cycles. And then lots of us feel like we have to grieve what we never had that we are now giving our children. My daughter's like a butterfly, my middle daughter. She went to art school, which I encouraged her to do. I said to her, follow your heart. Don't follow the money. Follow your heart. And the money will find you, but follow your heart. I never got that advice from my parents. I quit school and they didn't blink an eye. Okay, she quit college. There was no concern whatsoever. There was no sit down and talk. We need to talk about this. Let's go talk to a counselor. What is it you need? How can we support you? None of that. we were left really to our own defenses growing up, really. But, you know, having a daughter and raising her knowing the right way of raising her, and knowing that children should be seen and children should be heard and children should be encouraged. Here I was breaking the cycles of codependency. You know, I didn't want my daughter codependent on me and what I wanted for her, you know, or on what her father wanted for her, or what society was infusing her to think was the best thing. Lots of times our children are infused with the idea that if they make a lot of money, they're successful. And we all know lots of successful people are not happy. They're in divorce court for years. Some of them commit suicide. Lots of them are drugging. They're into this crazy, all sorts of crazy sex stuff. You know, I'll stop right there, you know. But it's like, we cannot define our success by money. So raising my daughter with this awareness, you know, don't be codependent on society. Don't be codependent on what someone else thinks you should do, was great. But there was also part of me that struggled with, what could I have achieved if I had had a mother that was loving me the way I was loving my daughter? So these are the kinds of things that we struggle with when we're healing from codependency. And certainly what love looks like after codependency is somewhat like that. When we're loving our children after codependency, for instance, because love is love. So when I title the video, Love After Codependency, I'm including the love that we have for our children and for other people. So when we love people after codependency, we are actually showing up empathetic, full of empathy for other people. So when it comes to my children, when they were very little and I was still codependent, I was below the veil of consciousness, as I like to say, I was very reactive. And so I had very little coping skills for stress. I didn't know how to handle stress. So my go-to was I would either yell or I would break down and cry. I mean, it sounds pathetic, but that's what I did. I either stomped my feet like, you kids are driving me crazy, or I would just, I was just so overwhelmed. I was a child. I was a child before my codependent recovery because I just didn't have the life skills. And, you know, what I teach in my program and what I teach in my private classes is I had to develop compassion and empathy for this brain because, like I say, the brain can only play with the tools that are in the shed. So I had no data for how to handle stressful situations. My mother screamed. My mother yelled, "You freaking kids, you drive me nuts." You know, this was the norm to watch my mother fill with anxiety when we stressed her out. So that was my download. That was what was in my subconscious mind. So, no, talk about the template. So here's my mother, who genetically codes me. So I watched my mother growing up dealing with stress a certain way. Now that's part of my brain. That's part of my subconscious programming. And now that's how I react in the real world. When I get upset, that's how I react. And I remember, and lots of my clients have expressed the same sentiment, that even when I was upset and I was yelling in the moment, in the background I could hear something stirring, like, this is wrong. This is wrong. Like, you don't want to be yelling like your mother. This is wrong. Now I understand that higher self, I did have consciousness. I was aware that it was wrong, but my brain had no data. My brain had no file to go into to say, okay, Lisa, try this now. Take a deep breath. Send the kids to their room. Tell them mommy needs a timeout. Separate them. Relax yourself. Take a couple of deep breaths. Take a lot of deep breaths. It's okay. As long as the kids aren't kill themselves, how about you go into the bathroom just for 5 minutes? Close your eyes and just relax. Just relax. I didn't have those tools. So my poor brain, my consciousness, now consciousness is not your brain. So consciousness had this idea that this is wrong, but my brain had no data. So you can have consciousness without the hardwired information. So without the hardwired information, without the practical tools, the higher self can't go to a file in your brain and say, okay, do this when you get stressed. So love after codependency is very empathetic. It means that I have empathy for the other person. It's not so ego-centered. So let's say, for instance, God forbid, I'm in a very happy marriage right now, but part of being non-codependent now, the way I love my husband is I'm not attached to outcomes anymore. Where when I walked down the aisle the first time, I was 23 years old. I think I was way the hell too young. And I really didn't see, it was not a conscious thought in my head that it would ever end. And that's very fairy tale-ish and unrealistic, especially today's statistics. 60% of marriages end in divorce. So I was very unrealistic. My idea of love was very whimsical. My idea of being a mother was very whimsical. I'll just be a good mommy, and I'll tell them I love them every day, and I will nurture them, and I will go to every PTA meeting, and I will be a soccer mom, and they will love me, and life will be easy. Blah 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 blah. Hello, no. So when you come out of codependency and you really begin to understand what was wrong, the bubble that was love, the way you love, bursts, and it's painful, and it's like there's this deer in the headlights moment, sometimes lots of moments, when you realize that doesn't work. Saying yes to people and being nice to people and being a doormat and a people pleaser, that's not the way to love people. That's not healthy. Like, that will never yield me the feeling of being seen that I'm really seeking in this life. I'll never feel real if I keep doing X, Y, and Z, but that's all I know how to do. All codependents really know how to do is to people please and to agree and nod their head like those little those little plastic chihuahuas you see on people's dashboards of their cars. Yep. Yes. We mean no, I hate this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to go there, I don't want to have this conversation. But codependents, yep. They go and they stuff all their feelings. So when you love out of codependency, you stop stuffing your feelings. When you love out of codependency, you're more honest. When you love out of codependency, you learn to say no when you mean no, out of love, not out of meanness. You just say no. So if you're a hairdresser, or you're a makeup artist, or if you're a car mechanic and you have family and friends of friends that call you, hey, listen, can you come over and do my hair or my kid's hair? Can you come do my daughter's makeup for her prom and her friend's makeup for their prom? And like, you've worked all day, but you're a recovering codependent and you love your friend, but now the love is more honest. So now you say something like, I really wish I could, but I can't. I'm not going to have the energy to do that, and I really hope you understand. And if your friend is healthy, she'll say, sure, sweetheart, I understand. Thank you for being honest with me. So that's what love looks like after codependency in a friend relationship. You're honest with yourself. There's no more stuffing of the feelings. There's no more pretending you're happy when you're not. There's no more please like me, please like me. No, you know that you're enough, dear one. You know that you're enough. Remember, below the subconscious programming, there is your divine self. As a matter of fact, I have my drawing handy, and I used it in one of my last videos. So, dear one, below all our dysfunctional stuff in our brain is the divine star self. You are made of the same stuff that is made of the stars. You literally come from the stars. This is you. That's your divine self, and you are worthy. So you don't have to be codependent on anybody. You don't have to be in relationships with people that are unhealthy. You don't have to take care of people that are unhealthy. You don't have to pay her bills or pay his bills. You don't have to watch their kids. You don't have to, bend over backwards. You don't have to say yes when you mean no, dear one. You don't need their validation. Now, because you may be wounded, and because maybe you have felt from childhood that you were not enough, and you have these wounds on your heart that affect your physiology, that affect the energy in your body, that affect your feelings. The feelings are conscious, the emotions are not conscious. That affect the way you think, and that affects your behavior, and that affects your performance and the quality of life that you have. If you've been wounded at a heart level, okay, as soon as you get born, you can have an attachment trauma. You can be raised by people who are alcoholics, who are unable to love their children, who are in an authentic way, who are unable to connect and bond with their children. So if that's your wound, dear one, then you will eventually become codependent, because attachment trauma is something that should never occur in any child. A child should never suffer attachment trauma. A child should come into this world connected to their mother, the umbilical cord, and once the umbilical cord is cut, what should happen is a natural energy bond should take over. And even though scientists cannot see that bond, they know that it's real. They know that it's real. And although a lot of scientists have struggled with, well, I can't see it, I can't taste it, I can't touch it, I can't measure it, I can't tweak it, I can't cut it, so I can't really say that it's real. Well, it's real. The bond between a mother and a child is real, and it's essential to healthy emotional development. And children who do not suffer attachment trauma are not codependent. Children who suffer from things like attachment trauma and they feel rejected by their mother, for all different reasons we can have attachment trauma. God forbid our mother dies during childbirth. God forbid our mother is an addict during childbirth. God forbid we get adopted out. God forbid we're the child of a rape and our mother adopts us out. There are so many reasons why we could suffer attachment trauma. Or our parents are alcoholics or crack addicts or they're dysfunctional or they're schizophrenic. Whatever the case may be, there's the Italian in me. There it is. There it is. But whatever, I digress. Children should not, in a nutshell, children should not have to suffer from attachment trauma. And the children who do, who decide that their world is unsafe, who by the time they're a year old decide that their diapers aren't worthy to get changed, that when they're hungry they go get ignored, when they're crying because they want to be comforted and no one comes, when their needs, their basic needs of survival are not met, and they deem on an emotional level, an energetic level, which is all below the veil of consciousness, when a child feels unsafe in this world, they become an adult above the veil. Well, they're really not above the veil, but in the conscious world, in the adult life, right? The walking adult life that I'm in now, that you're in now, watching this YouTube video, what'll happen is all of this, the wounds, the physiological changes that occur from being wounded, the emotions that occur because we've been wounded, we have physiological changes in our body, the feelings that we're now carrying as adults, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I don't feel good enough, I never got my mother's love, how could I be worthy? All of this stuff affects the way we think, and then it affects the way we behave, and then it affects our quality of life. So when you heal from codependency, you go back to the divine self, and you heal all those wounds on that heart. You realize that it was all a bunch of BS. The fact that you grew up feeling like you weren't good enough was a lie. It was an illusion. You are enough. And when you feel like you're enough, your physiology changes, your heart rate changes, your body gets calm, you get soft inside, your eyes change, the windows to your souls change. When you're looking at people, you're okay if they don't like you. You're not attached to this idea that they have to like you because you know that you are enough. You know that in your core. So when you're not codependent, what happens is your heart, the wounds of your heart get healed. Your physiology changes. The energy in your body changes. And then the way you feel changes in the now. You suddenly see things differently. That changes the way you think. You learn to think about the way you feel. Your behavior changes. And so let's talk about the behavior. So love after codependency, what happens in the behavior? Well, remember, everything changes. Your thinking, your feelings, the emotions, your physiology, your behavior changes, and your quality of life changes. Because when you're not codependent anymore, you don't show up at first dates thinking, I hope he likes me, I hope he likes me, I hope he likes me, I hope he likes me. You don't do that anymore. You show up thinking, I hope I like him. You show up like, who am I? I know who I am, and I'm going to be who I am because I want someone who can really see me. So love after codependency is one that's freeing. It doesn't come with all these attachments and these bonds. We're not attached to an outcome. Like I said earlier, I'm married for a second time. I love my husband. He loves me and I know it and I feel it. But I'm not attached to the idea, that it has to last forever. I understand that every relationship ends, either by death, divorce, tragedy, cheating, sickness, something happens. Every relationship in life must end. And because I faced that reality head on, and I knew that it was a reality, so I came out of my child's brain, moved into the logical brain. I ascended the Neanderthal brain and bypassed pain versus pleasure. And I realized that is just the nature of this world, that our physical bodies are temporary, and so that means relationships are temporary. And once I moved out of this illusion that a relationship should last forever, I wasn't attached to the relationship lasting forever. So I feel free in my relationship with my husband. So my first marriage, I was enmeshed. If he moved to the left, I have to move to the right, and vice versa, and vice versa. And so I was the pursuer. I pursued him, and the more I pursued him, the more he pulled away. And the minute I shut down and said, okay, I'm not chasing his ass anymore, he started to pursue me. And the minute I felt comfortable, like, oh, yay, my husband sees me, this is good, I started to pursue him again. And guess what happened? He began to withdraw. It's the codependent tango, as I like to call it. Dysfunctional as all get out. So that's enmeshment. Love after codependency feels like this. So this is me, this is my husband. He sees me, and I see him. So when he has a bad day, I allow him to have a bad day. I don't try to fix it. I support it. I say, wow, it looks like you're having a bad day. Wow, that sounds rough. Wow, what was that like for you? Wow, that must have been difficult for you. I see him. I see his reality. I don't make his reality about me. Now that's what codependents do. They take on the responsibility for how the other person feels. I don't do that anymore. So if my honey has a bad day, I allow my honey to have a bad day. And I don't assume responsibility for it. That's all ego, because, and lots of reasons, dear one, because when we take responsibility for our spouse's feelings, a couple of things we think as codependents will happen. They'll owe me. He'll see that I'm a good girl. He'll do for me what I've done for him. Very manipulative lots of times. You know, if I do something for him and if I make him feel like he needs me, he'll never leave me. So rewatch this tape, rewind this video if any of that resonates with you. And I would, like I tell all my clients, write this stuff down. You need to study this because the codependent tapes are in the subconscious mind. And if you're interested, I wrote a book. Well, I've written 6 books, but this is Loving the Self-Affirmations, and it's called Healing Childhood Brainwashing. So, and this is Breaking the Cycles of Unconscious Codependent Belief Systems. That's my first affirmations book. So these books, and you know, my books are just here. I didn't intend to do this, but this is Quantum Tools to Help You Heal Your Life Now. So those of you who are in the Law of Attraction, you'll very much resonate with this. And this is my latest book, Codependent Now What? It's Codependent, now what? It's not you, it's your programming. And of course my first book, my baby, The Road Back to Me. I mean, they're all my babies, but that opened me up. That was the book that allowed me to become who I am and evolve into who I've become. So, and so many of you are on the same journey as me. So love after codependency is very freeing. Love after codependency makes you feel seen because now you see yourself. Why do you see yourself? Because after you've come through the veil of codependency, you learn to believe that you are enough. You understand that you absolutely are enough, and you don't need to prove yourself to anyone. Love after codependency is one of non-attachment. So you can love someone but not be attached to them. I can love my husband in the now and appreciate what's happening in the now, but I'm not attached to the idea that he can't hurt me. I love him, so he can hurt me. Anyone that you allow into your heart has the ability to hurt you. I accept that. And I accept that because, ouch, jeez. I accept that because I know that I'm enough. And I accept that and I know that I'll be fine. I accept that because I know that I'm connected to everything. I know that because I'm connected to the earth. I know that I don't have to prove myself to anyone. And I know that because all I have to do is maintain my vibration, and if I wanted to be in another relationship, I could. That doesn't mean I want anything to happen to the relationship I'm in now. It just means that I am not codependently enmeshed with the idea that I need this relationship. Do I want this relationship? Yes. So when you come out of codependency, the love that you feel is one of empathy, primarily for the self. So you have empathy for the self, you have compassion for the self. You love the self, and you move forward in your life knowing that you absolutely have a right to attract someone who is good for you. You know that you're worthy, so that you know that you deserve someone who is good for you. Love after codependency means you're no longer afraid to go for the person, let's say you're female. You're no longer afraid to go for the guy that smells good, that's financially responsible, that's a good dad, that loves you, that's romantic, that knows how to dance. Whatever it is an adventurer. You're not afraid to really go for the type of relationship that you want. The idea that who does she think she is going for that guy? Who does she think she is? I heard my whole life, you're just too damn picky, Lisa. You're too damn picky, Lisa. You're too damn picky, Lisa. I am glad that I finally learned to believe I had a right to manifest the type of relationship I wanted. So when you come through the veil of codependency and you really healed, and it takes a while to heal from codependency. Codependency is not just, you wake up one day and go, oh shit, I'm codependent. All my problems are solved. No. Codependency implies that you've got a bunch of codependent tracks running in your brain that you must learn how to heal. And that's basically what I teach. Because, for years I was on the path to enlightenment, and I sought so many different thinkers, and I was like, even yogis and gurus, I want to be enlightened. Yeah, I got my hand up, like, I'd like to be enlightened, but nobody would tell me how. What are the tools? What are the tricks? How do you become enlightened? And I believe that's what I've created, with my books and with my YouTube channel, and especially with the program that I've created. I believe that I've created a step program to enlightenment. Now, the thing about enlightenment is like, it's layers. It's expansion. You can be enlightened, and then you can be more enlightened and more enlightened. So it's like a series of light bulbs. You can be a 1 watt enlightened person, or you could be a 100 watt enlightened person, and so on and so on and so on until we transition. And then we become enlightened about our afterlife, which is kind of cool also. So I really hope that this video, it went a little bit longer than I hoped, but that's okay. That's okay. If any of you have become a little bit more turned on and a little bit more enlightened about what love is like after codependency, I'm a happy life coach. I'm a happy individual, because I'm all about teaching you that you are enough. I'm all about spreading the message that no matter whatever happened to us in our childhood that taught us to believe that we weren't enough, it was a lie, and we really are enough because we're all divine. I'm all about teaching people that it's not you, it's your programming. So what we have to fix is your programming. And when we fix your programming, your quality of life improves. So if that has happened at all for any of you, I am quite a blessed woman today. So dear ones, as always, I bow to the love and the light in you. Namaste.